All right, this is a time-lapse video of an FPLA mouse that I'm going to cover for my BambuLabs
All right,
mouse.
welcome everybody. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at BambuLabs mouse kit. This is Wireless Mouse Components Kit 0002, and it's basically a mouse shell printing out kit. You get an STL file that you can download off of MakerWorld, and you create components to create your own wireless mouse. These are components that I printed out last night on my 3D printer. And what's cool is that the internal parts for the mouse, including the sensor that detects where the mouse is tracking, and also the battery leads to fit in the computer, come in this handy dandy kit, which sells for around $12 over on MakerWorld. I was fortunate enough to have this be given to me when I got my printer. What they do is they like to tuck in a nice little treat into the box of the printers when they send them over to you. So they do a pretty nice job of that. And here are a couple of shells I printed out last night. I can show you. I used FPLA and had a bit of a difficulty. This shell, for example, did not turn out well at all. You can see how rough it is because what happened was the the print was angled, you know, in the slicer, and so when the trees were on the print bed for the printer behind me, it's actually that way. Um, the could not support it, and everything wobbled as it printed. But when I had it flat on the base, the second version came out a lot better. And I think with a bit of cleanup, like I have to get the trees out, support trees out from underneath it, I think I'll be able to use this as the cover for the mouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start assembling the parts and see how far I get. There's a little circuit board here that fits into the motherboard, and I'm sure there are some screws around as well. So let's take a look. So yeah, you get a wireless adapter here. This is a small dongle. It's not Bluetooth, but it's a proprietary connector. You've also got a cover, it looks like, for the lens. So let's take that out. And a couple of nice mouse feet. So I guess what we'll do is we'll work on the base shell here. I mean the bottom of the shell is the top. This is the base. So the base is made out of harder plastic. The PLA instead of the FPLA because I wanted to make sure, that it was sturdy. In fact, I'm not sure I can use FPLA for any of this setup at all because it's too wobbly to print. So, you don't want to have wobbly things going on when you're using your 3D printer because it just will not work at all. It just won't do it. So, so let's see. We've got a lead here. I suppose finding the instructions would be a good idea as well. They're right in here, fortunately. So let's see. What do we do here? Okay, hardware kit user guide. Visit Maker World, search model by kit title. That's nice. See, one sheet. It's kind of like IKEA, except this has more words than an IKEA instruction set. So let's see. Yeah, you can also download the instructions, or you can just use common sense to try and figure this out. So we've got a small circuit board here with the mouse IC chips on it and a clicker for the mouse wheel, the button. What we'll do is we'll have to figure out where this goes inside component wise. That looks like that would fit there. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if there's any screws involved, but that got fit in. There we go. That's in place. So let's see. This would be the lens cover. So if you figure the lens is over here, so probably what you want to do is put the lens in first before you put the circuit board down, because this is going to collect the light. It's going to bounce the light backwards up into the mouse to help it track where you're supposed to be set. And that's a plastic lens.
And I'm sure it only goes in one way. I'm not sure which way it goes. Here's a cat. The cat's going to help me do the video because she likes doing that. I am wondering, how do I get this mouse in here? I mean, how do I get the light inside there? I'm sure that's got to snap in. Are you helping? I'm not sure exactly how it's oriented. It isn't logical how it fits, except it's got to be that way, doesn't it? Because if you look at the contours inside of it, or maybe I'm thinking it too much. Maybe it actually goes that way. Okay, so when we put this in, okay, all right, well, why don't we identify the components first, right? This component is the click wheel. Yeah, and if you wonder if cats are curious, you're getting a good example of how curious cats can be. Okay, we've got the click wheel. We've got components. Got component leads. Okay, this looks like it's the light assembly. Okay, so we need to figure out where these leads go. Is that a socket? That's just soldered on. So the question is, where is this going to go? Yeah, I'm going to have to look for a video. Hang on a minute. Could you just get out of the way, Cat? Just so what I figured out was that you kind of have to put the scroll wheel in first before you put the circuit board down because the scroll wheel has to go into some sort of encodation wheel. All right, this is a continuation of trying to get this mouse together. I'm trying to work on figuring out where the parts go. Figure this is the battery door, and I could see how that kind of clips in. I have a good idea of how the lens goes in. The lens goes in this way or that way. Either, I mean, it's a rectangle, so you kind of have to fit it in either way. And then you've got a spring contact, probably for a switch. Okay, that can fit in. The question is, how does this collect light for the mouse? I'm not sure. Oh yeah, there's a sensor over underneath it. So you can kind of see as you lay it down. Yeah, it looks like the sensor has to hit it this way. No, see if you do it that way, it doesn't fit. Okay, it's got to be the other way. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so what we have to do is we have to get the sensor on the lens positioned directly over the sensor. See, now that works. That's fine. Okay, so we don't actually have instructions on how to assemble the mouse on the instruction sheet, which is sad. Okay, we've got our 4 feet. We've got our dongle that connects to the computer. We've got screws to hold things together. I think one of the things I have to do is to start cleaning up the mouse itself because it's a tangle, and I hope it'll be useful. I may have to do a PLA shell that's harder. I'm thinking that what might happen is it's going to have to switches are going to have to work inside it, and if I can't get the switches to work, then the mouse isn't going to work.
So if it's too flexible inside the mouse, it's not really going to do what I need to do because it's got some switches on the top that have to press down, like mice do. So yeah. So what I'm hoping to get here in the tech lab of reviews is a set of better tools, possibly as a birthday gift. But what might happen that's pretty cool is once I get all these supports cut out, is that I'll find out that the mouse I printed out is usable. And I suppose I can fast forward over all these bits uh, as I try to get the trees out of the print. Uh, all right, try to get the trees out of the print. That makes sense. All right. So now that's the top part of the shell. And it's still pretty rough, but it's a whole lot better than the other shell. The other shell was just a nightmare. Very, very difficult to deal with watching it wobble around. In fact, I probably should have just stopped the print, but I wanted to see how it did. I mean, I've had issues with flexible uh, filaments, over time. I mean, and some of my printers using TPU was like a nightmare, like the K1 Creality that I had previous to getting up this BambuLab A1. The Creality K1 was not happy printing flexible filaments, and just generally really really disappointing in how the approach towards changing filaments. I mean, it's so easy to change filaments on this printer that doing multicolor prints even without an AMS it's doable. I mean, it can be done. In fact, I've done some. I mean, if you take a look at this printout, this tripod here, this is black and white PLA. Um, a happy accident. I mean, what happened was I ran out of black filament, and so I switched over to white filament. But it automatically pauses the printer and allows you to swap the filaments, which is fine because sometimes that's what you need to do. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna need more tools. A Dremel kit would be nice. Definitely, X-Acto knife set would also be good. So what I'm doing is I'm just removing the support trees. And what was weird about this print is that the support trees were in the STL file, which means I couldn't turn them off in the slicer because they were already there. I think because this was a older 3D model, they put the supports in even whether you didn't want to have supports in the model or not. I guess they were necessary because the bottom shell would not print out properly unless it had support. I'm just going to try to wrench some of these trees out. The problem here is you don't want to tear the model. If you tear your mouse model, you're just going to have to print it again. So it's really nice sometimes when you're looking for these prints is to look for ones that basically say no support or print in place. The idea being, you don't have to have the hassle of what I'm doing now in order to enjoy your 3D printing experience as long as you get the right file. Uh, yeah, and there are a couple of places to get files if you guys are interested in that. Maker World is good. Printables is good. That's the Prusa people. You can also look at Thingiverse, although Thingiverse's ad policy has been getting a little wacky lately. When I click on one of the videos, it immediately flips me to a full page web ad, which I don't need any more ads in my life. In fact, I've been trying to get away from ads mostly. So let's see. We still got a whole bunch of tree supports, but at least I can kind of see where the cleanup needs to be done. So what we do is we clean this up to the point where we can fit it over the cover. So this is the cover. Cover fits on top of the electronics. This part has the sensor, and the cover holds the click wheel. This is the scroll wheel. The click buttons are right here, the two blue ones, and they work with the clickers here, which means you have to really free up this, get the trees off of them, because otherwise they're not going to work right. In the future, I might look for a mouse shell. I think the next mouse shell I print isn't going to have this much integrated supports because they're a chore to get off this thing. Yeah, I mean, I do like the flexible PLA. I mean, it has a lot of uses. You can create shoes, for example. I did some interesting shoe projects recently, and I can show you guys in a later video. A shoe called the Wave Rider that came out really well. I mean, they take a long time. I mean, a shoe could take 2 days to print. I mean, 24 hours of printing. But if your printer is stable, it can run for 24 hours unattended. You know, and what's nice about the Bamboo people is that they've created a phone app where you can kind of check the progress. And if your connection's good enough, you can see the video as it progresses through doing the printout. In fact, I've got a stop. I mean, I've got a time lapse printout of how this mouse printout out that I can show you in the video, and because you can check it over the internet, you can keep it. In other words, you can keep track of it as you get along with the other things you have to do in your life. So now down at the bottom, there are a couple of support posts, and they have like trees wrapped around them. So I have to make sure I cut the trees and I don't cut anything else because I don't want to cut the support posts. All right, let's see if I can get one side. One side. I'm trying to think of what I printed with flexible filament juggling balls, for example. You want something that's more stretchy and less rigid for a juggling ball. And there was a nice file that had a plug in one end, so you can fill it with sand or like rice to give it some weight. You know, if you're gonna be juggling, you want to use something that has some flexibility to it because you don't want to be throwing hard plastic balls up in the air and trying to catch them, for example. And the hexagonal version of the juggling balls uh, as a hexagonal solid, they're not going to like roll away off the desk. Here are the juggling balls that I talked about, made in TPU, soft and flexible, and with the plug inside. Let's see if I can pick one up. Yeah, you can hear there's rice in this one, which gives it a nice heft for doing the juggling. Yeah, I'll come back when I finished up with the cleanup. So let's see. I think I'm going to use this to kind of wrench the. Yeah, if I put my finger down that way and go this way. Yeah. So it's kind of satisfying to do this. You know, turn your brain off and fix up a print. Why not? Yeah, there we go. All right. So more and more, we're going to take the supports out of the shell. And then I'm going to order me some more PLA and probably do another shell. I mean, there must be shells out there that just don't have this kind of integrated support. Hoo-ha. So what I figured out was that you kind of have to put the scroll wheel in first before you put the circuit board down, because the scroll wheel has to go into some sort of encodation wheel. So I got the components put together using a handy dandy video from BambuLabs, which helped me with the assembly. And the next thing to do is to put the top cover on and then screw it together. And then I'll work putting the shell on. Here's an insert shot of work in progress. This is the mouse with most of the cleanup done. You can see there's a lot of support trees. I'm having a main issue with the parts in the back because those two posts were covered with trees. Kat definitely wants to be part of the making the mouse experience, although I'm not sure she's helping. So at this point, I'm putting the cover on. I'm realizing that it's shipped with these little Torx screws, which is not the most conventional thing in the world. I originally got out a multi-tool with a Phillips head screwdriver, but fortunately I had the right Allen wrench lying on the ground around the printer. So there you go. I guess I do have to clean up the cat hair off of the scrolling wheel, though. That might be good. So here's the completed mouse with the shell on. And the next step is to see if it can connect. Well, it works as a pointing device. I can get it up and running. It definitely shows things. But the buttons are kind of shifty. And right now, definitely having issues with the setup. It seems to think that it's a keyboard, and I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I've got the dongle plugged in, and everything else should be fine, but otherwise, that's the way it is. And as I said, I think probably the issue is that I'm using a flexible filament for the mouse cover, and I think I need to switch over to a PLA one. But it's nice to know that the internal electronics work. And I'll do another video once I get the PLA shell printed out and see how that one goes as well.